two decisions by Florida's Supreme Court, which have the Biden campaign both angry and excited, and the Trump camp a bit nervous. This week, the court decided to uphold a law triggering a 6-week abortion ban, but it allowed abortion rights to be put on the November ballot. The two rulings possibly changing the dynamics of the presidential race.
I'm running to make Roe v. Wade the law of the land again.
The Biden campaign putting abortion front and center, slamming Florida's new 6-week abortion ban as extreme and outrageous.
Donald Trump doesn't trust women. I do.
But hoping that having abortion rights on the ballot in November could make Florida winnable for the first time in 12 years.
We definitely see Florida in play.
Abortion rights has proved a winning issue for Democrats ever since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, with voters supporting abortion access in every ballot measure, including in red states like Kansas and Kentucky. This year, Florida is one of about a dozen states where voters could weigh in on abortion rights, including swing states like Arizona and possibly Nevada.
We'll be making a statement next week on abortion.
Trump, meanwhile, tried to walk the line between appeasing his pro-life base, but also Republicans and independents who believe in a woman's right to choose.
More and more I'm hearing about 15 weeks. I haven't agreed to any number. I'm going to see.
Here with me today, author and podcast host Kara Swisher, Reihan Salam, president of the Manhattan Institute and contributing writer at The Atlantic, New York Times journalist and podcast host Lulu Garcia-Navarro, and Jim Geraghty, senior political correspondent at National Review and contributing writer at The Washington Post. Welcome, everyone, especially Jim, who's a first-timer.
Yes! I'm excited. I'm ready to go.
Long-time viewer, first-time
yes.
caller.
Yeah, let's get this thing going. I'm ready.
All right. You got to take it down a little.
Take it down.
All right. Now, look, Florida used to be a swing state, most famously in the 2000 election between Bush and Gore, but it's turned increasingly red. Trump beat Biden there 4 years ago by 371,000 votes. Lulu, as a Florida native, does abortion on the ballot in November give Biden a chance in your home state?
It does not. I think Florida has turned into a red state. Demographic shifts have been huge there. Where I do think it will help Democrats is down ballot. We do see that this issue is actually going to have some legs there. There are a lot of House races. There's a Senate race that's close. And so I do think that's going to be...
But Florida's too red.
It's too red now for Biden to have, I think. In my personal opinion, it's too red now.
But as we said, abortion is going to be on the ballot on states all across the country, definitely Arizona, possibly the swing state of Nevada. Jim, could abortion swing this election?
On those other states, I was going to say conceivably, maybe that's the wrong word for the abortion discussion. Biden would just need everything to break his way for a state like Florida. And when they put together their first list of competitive states, they went with the blue wall states, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, and then they went Arizona, Georgia, all the ones you'd kind of expect. They put North Carolina on their list, which struck me as kind of a stretch. My attitude is anything Biden didn't win 4 years ago, it's going to be a tough, pull for him this time. Florida really feels like it's a little bit out of reach.
But abortion.
Yeah. Wait, look, it'll be a factor coast to coast, exactly what the Democrats wanted for their motivation. But on the other hand, I think most people vote on the economy. Probably immigration is going to be a big deal. It'll be in the mix, but it's not.
Women vote on abortion. Women are very reliable Democratic voters. And beyond all that, where we've seen actually abortion make a really big difference is in swing states. In those close states where actually getting people out to the polls to vote on that issue will be decisive.
Karen, how big a role do you think abortion plays?
A big role. I think it's been there quietly all over the place. And in all these elections, it's mattered. It seems to have mattered whether it's in Alabama, whether it's in Ohio, in Kansas, all kinds of places. It pops up. I think it'll pop up in Florida in big time.
Well, interestingly enough, in Florida, the supporters of the abortion on the rights are saying we don't want this to be a political issue because we don't want, people who may be for Trump but want abortion rights not to vote for this. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays. Trump, incidentally, says he's going to make a statement about abortion this week to clear up where he stands. But as soon as the Florida Supreme Court put abortion on the ballot, the Biden campaign started running an ad in that state to make it clear where Donald Trump stands.
For 54 years, they were trying to get Roe v. Wade terminated, and I did it, and I'm proud to have done it.
Reihan, can Trump find some way to thread the needle in this statement he's supposedly going to make next week, where on the one hand, he doesn't antagonize his pro-life base, but on the other hand, he somehow fuzzes up the issue for people who are pro-choice?
Yes, I think he can, and I think that he's somewhat unique in his ability to do that. He has such strong support from evangelical conservative voters who see him as their champion that he's able to be a little bit tactical about the issue. He's able to actually moderate his position in ways that other Republicans find it very difficult to do. There's another element of this, Chris, and it relates to what you were talking about a moment ago with Kara. There's a funny way in which these referendums actually decouple the issue from partisanship. Back in 2020, Florida voters voted by 20 percentage points to hike that state's minimum wage, and Trump still won. If you look at Ohio, Kansas, Kentucky, state after state, you've seen pro-choicers win referendums by big margins, but those states continue to vote for Republicans.
Okay,
so that actually could be something that works out
if there is a
well.
sweet spot, and you say you think that Trump is uniquely qualified, what's the sweet spot?
I think what he's talking about now is using 15 weeks as the pro-life position. He's redefining it around that as what he considers more defensible ground. There are going to be plenty of voters who are still opposed to that, who still consider that too restrictive, but he sees that as defensible, and I think he's going to be proven right.
Kara?
He's also comfortable in that spot. That's what he actually thinks, which is unusual for him because he swings all over the place. But I think he probably will push for that. I still think it's going to be a problem with his evangelical base. They'll be very disappointed because they keep pressing on. But he definitely has to say something because he's kind of in a jam here.
I don't think he can bamboozle voters. I mean, I think the very idea that somehow Trump can pretend that he wasn't the person who was seminal in overturning Roe, and that Republicans somehow aren't actually pushing for these very extreme against abortion rights and freedom of reproductive choice.
I don't think there's any bamboozling here.
I just feel like you're saying that he's going to play the middle
There's
somehow.
a separate debate about whether or not this should be handled by voters and democratically elected legislatures versus the Supreme Court. And I think that's what we're seeing play out. And by the way, it's been pretty tough politics.
Here's the thing I don't understand, and Jim, let me bring you into this. I would think of 15 weeks, obviously, there are a lot of pro-choice women who are going to say, I don't want any restriction. I could see that being more acceptable to them. How does that square with the pro-life people who have been talking for decades about life begins at the moment of conception?
No exceptions, no rape, incest, anything
So how
like that.
suddenly is 15 weeks okay?
So we asked earlier about whether Trump can find that sweet spot.
Right.
Is it, could it happen? Yes. Would I bet on Trump doing that? No, because he's generally all over the place when he talks about these kinds of topics. He'll say one thing, one sentence, and then in a separate interview, he'll be completely contradictory. Trump can make himself sound like whatever he wants, sometimes, never mind paragraph to paragraph, sentence to sentence. And yet you think, voters will recognize this. Largely, voters haven't. Trump has been, missing the sweet spot on all kinds of issues all throughout his whole career, saying things that are incendiary, saying things that are crazy and controversial, and it never really catches up with him, at least not to a point where he's no longer, a person who could win the presidency.
What makes Trump so compelling?
But Lloyd, I just want you to briefly, because we're running out of time in this segment, answer this question. How does the pro-life movement wrap its head around 15 weeks? Do they say, well, yeah, but Trump is our guy and we know he doesn't mean it?
I'm sorry to say that there are a lot of pro-lifers who are really panicked right now and who are trying to find some defensible ground as well. There have been political defeat after political defeat, and they think half a loaf is better than none.